Good morning, it's January 8th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Well, TikTok, the clock keeps right on moving, and Congress seems unable to come together and solve the big three problems that are facing them right now. The clock that's ticking is the one that they agreed to with the current continuing resolution that funds the government, and the one that ends for various agencies at differing times. The CR provides funding through January 19th for agencies and programs that were funded in the following four FY23 Appropriations Acts: the Ag, Rural Food and Drug Administration, the Energy and Water Development Act, the Military Construction Veteran Affairs Act, and the Transportation, Housing and Urban Development Act. For most other federal agencies, the CR provides funding through February 2nd of 2024. The three problems that are the major sticking point are as follows. One, the southern border. Funding and policy changes have been proposed by Republicans, and they passed the bill, H.R. 2, and sent it to the Senate, where it's just languished. Democrats don't like it. Second, funding for both Ukraine and Israel. The two parties differ on this subject. Republicans want to fund aid to Israel, but are reluctant to send additional funds to Ukraine without some strict accounting measures included. Democrats want to fund Ukraine, but are hesitant to fund the war in Gaza because of a backlash from their progressive wing, and so they're at a stalemate. And third, how much do they allocate to fund the government? The CR funds agencies at 23 levels, but conservatives in the House want to make deeper cuts. Now, that to-do list would be a tall order for any Congress returning to work after a holiday break, but this divided group of lawmakers has a particularly poor record of passing legislation. A fresh failure would reverberate beyond America's borders, leaving our allies concerned that the United States politicians, who have so often led the way in addressing the world's problems, are deepening with them with their dysfunction. Looking at each issue, there seems to be a divide that might not be achievable unless the middle of each party band together and force the decisions. I say this because the far right in the House have dug their feet in. Led by Chip Roy, the Republican from Texas, and a leading member of the Freedom Caucus, he said that he would not support any deal until the Senate passes H.R. 2. But the problem with that hardline position is it won't happen in the Senate as currently written. Senator James Lankford, a Republican from Oklahoma, is the lead negotiator for the Republicans in the Senate, and he said that a compromise will be needed because the House bill is a non-starter for Democrats in the Senate. So negotiators are discussing changes that would make it easier for U.S. immigration officials to rapidly turn away migrants who have come asking for asylum while limiting the number of people who would qualify for that protection. They're also looking at narrowing an immigration power known as humanitarian parole, another way for migrants to enter the country legally and temporarily. And according to Senator Lankford this weekend, he said a deal is pretty much in place and they hope to have text on the language out by sometime early this week. Now, there has to be some changes in asylum, and even many Democrats admit it. It's being abused. Just this week, it was exemplified by a conversation the mayor of Denver had with an immigrant. Mayor Mike Johnson is a supporter of giving these illegal migrants the ability to work while in the United States. He speaks Spanish, and he relayed a conversation where a migrant said to him, quote, "Mr. Mayor, look at me. I have strong hands. I have a good back. I have a big heart. I walked 3,000 miles to get here. All I want is a job. I just want to work, and I can help you." End quote. And that's the crux of the problem. At the border, these people claim they're coming for asylum, but everyone knows it's for economic reasons. The funding for Ukraine and Israel is another issue that needs a resolution, but it's tied up in politics. Conservatives in the House are demanding, as I said, greater accounting of the funds, and some simply want to end U.S. aid to the effort to fend off the Russian invasion. Progressives are accusing the U.S. of supporting genocide by Israel as they invade Gaza. They want aid Israel to be conditioned on them ceasing their invasion and pull back into Israel. Both have points. There needs to be some accounting of funds to Ukraine as corruption is rampant in the nation. The problem with asking Israel to withdraw or cease attacking is they don't demand, meaning the progressives, that Hamas cease their attacks on Israel. They don't demand that they stop firing rockets. They don't condemn terrorist attacks where they take hostages and kill innocent people. On the final issue, Congress eventually came to a compromise. President Biden and then Speaker Kevin McCarthy set the top line roughly at about $1.5 trillion in a debt ceiling law that passed last spring. But Senate and House negotiators subsequently went their separate ways. After negotiations between Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Leader Chuck Schumer, they have agreed to a top-line number that equals the deal last spring. Now, some House lawmakers propose funding agencies at closer to $1.47 trillion to force spending cuts. The far right of the House Republican caucus have indicated they will oppose the bill and vote against the deal, but if the Democrats and the rest of the Republicans vote for it, they will be left holding the bag. And there's still a lot of bitterness among many Republicans about how the right wing, led by Matt Gaetz, forced Speaker Kevin McCarthy out and made the Republicans look foolish in electing a new speaker. Now, I would love to see further cuts, but I also realize that because we have split government, it will require compromise. And hopefully, as I said, the majority in the middle of both parties will force an agreement. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.